Welcome back, Nerglings. Today we're looking at some of the miniatures I have collected together for my Make Warhammer Quest Great Again series. But before we start, be sure to like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Also, if you aren't familiar with the main idea behind this project, I suggest you pop over to the video in the card above, where I will explain all. As I said, today's video is dedicated to the models. To that end, I'll be grouping them together by race, showing you the various states of disrepair that they're currently in, and talking about what I plan on doing with them. Who knows, you may get hooked and start a classic collection all of your own. I really wanted to give you a sense of nostalgia when looking at these fab old sculpts. Not only that, but I've just recently really fallen back in love with classic monopose plastic miniatures. There's something really quite endearing about them that I just didn't appreciate before. Maybe it's that they are simple sculpts with bags of character, although I suspect it's because I owned so many of these guys when I was younger, as I wanted quantity over quality, so I ended up buying lots of plastics. Right, so these guys are a mixture of old plastics from a variety of manufacturers, not just Games Workshop. They all have been based on my favourite, Hexi bases. I just feel that the Hexi base lends so much class to models, almost like it's some sort of statement all by itself. Yeah, I base my models on Hexi, I'm a rogue. I'd like to suggest that there is some kind of game element that could be better because of Hexi bases too, but I don't know what that could be. Maybe the front three faces of the model's vision arcs or something. Before we head on, what will I be doing with larger models, I hear you cry? Well, I figured as many of these models would be required for various services in my Chaos Army, they should go on large square bases. I did consider using laser cut MDF, large Hexi bases, however they just wouldn't fit in with the rest of my collection as all my large creatures are either on square or round bases. For instance, my Renegades, various creatures and my Giant Horde all have round bases. The aim is to make enough models to have at least 1d6 of each of the main evil races. So that's a minimum of 6 Chaos Warriors, Beastmen, Goblins armed with spears and bows, Orcs armed with hand weapons and shields and bows, Dark Elves and Skaven. On a side note, I would like to get some Chaos Dwarf tool hats, but I doubt I'll be able to find any of those at a decent price these days. I will trawl eBay once in a while to see if I can pick any up for a reasonable price, however, I won't be holding my breath. Let's start off with the best miniatures in the Horde. That's right, you guessed it, they're Chaos Warriors. So the first lot I'm going to show you are the Battle Masters Chaos Warriors. These guys come complete as a single model, however they usually clip onto large green rectangular movement bases. So I'll ditch these in the bits box for use on something else. There are only 5 here, however I do have a 6th still in his packaging. On to the second monster encounter. This will be another group of 1 to 6 Chaos Warriors, this time the classic Axemen sculpts. These guys were probably some of my most early miniatures. Not only were they absolutely huge, but they had a cool design aesthetic that matched the Hero Quest Chaos Warrior very closely. In fact, here is a Hero Quest plastic Chaos Warrior I recently painted up. The similarities are quite obvious. Maybe it was the same sculptor that got to do both of them, who knows. Moving on from the Chaos Warriors, here we have some Dark Elves. Again, classic monopose beauties. These lads will be given shields from Rotten Factory when I can get around to buying a few dozen. I think they'll look great in my dark brown muddy colour scheme with some nifty highlights on their armour and skin tones. I really like the Black Guard models from this era too, and I'm seriously considering a search for them, simply because the models were so chunky. I remember picking up a packet of them when I was about 10 years old and thinking to myself how cool they looked and how heavy they were. Used to be able to get 3 for about £8, but now I suspect they will go for about 4 to 5 times that on eBay. Onwards and upwards. These are the Goblins. As I said before, I'll be using some with spears and shields and the others with bows. To that end, I will require 6 of each. Once again, I'll be using Rotten Factory shields despite my love for the old shield designs. This is a visual trick I'll be using to bind the dungeon's monsters together with a single strong theme. Save for the Battlemasters Chaos Warriors and any models not needing shields like Bowmen, everyone will be given a Rotten Factory shield. I remember getting some of these goblins in the Warhammer box, in whichever edition it was that they faced off against the High Elves. Bad memory for the editions or what. Skaven are a staple monster for any dungeon crawl, and my dungeon will be no different. Here are 6 of the nasty little critters from the old Marauder range of miniatures. Whilst not single piece models, they are monopose, as you could only dictate which way the head was looking. I would rate these guys as slightly better than the classic grey plastic Skaven that you got in the original Warhammer Quest box set. The orcs I have for this project are a real mix of Marauder monopose with a variety of heads, a classic Warhammer orc, and a Battlemaster's green plastic effort from MB. Once again, when I get round to purchasing my shields, they will have Rotten Factory ones to unify the disparate factions and races of the monsters in my dungeon. I have enough pieces to make at least another 6 of these lads, so I may go ahead and do that. After all, orcs are usually quite populous in dungeons. I plan on getting some more plastic orc archers too. I don't want to make it too easy for those pesky heroes. I've been considering who to use as the evil warlock in the dungeon and have settled on this little chap. He's suitably wizened and old looking in style and sculpt and will make a great addition to the collection. No, I have yet to figure out which Silver Tower miniatures I will be using, but I suspect I will use at least a few of the Acolytes and the Spider Goblins, as they look kind of fun. I will definitely use some of the little flaming guys, whatever they are, and some of the familiars for the Warlock to order about. For the heroes, I've been thinking about using some metal miniatures from various ranges. First and foremost, this barbarian type chap from the Pantheon of Chaos. I have an elf with a bow and sword kicking about somewhere around here, so I'll use him. I also have a dwarf miner somewhere, if my memory serves me correctly. I now have a halfling painted up nicely, an empire ogre, and a nice wizard too. So I think I'm pretty good for a variety of hero types. I may get some of the classic Warhammer Quest miniatures, such as the Chaos Warrior and the Pit Fighter and the like, as those sculpts were pretty cool. However, for the moment I think I'll stick with what I already have. The last thing I want to do is overstretch myself with another huge project that has no end in sight. The models I have are pretty varied and should hold my interest for the duration of the project, or at least I will be able to flip-flop between the different races and paint something different if I do start to get bored. Things I'm really looking forward to with this project include getting one of the races complete and based up, making a start on the dungeon tiles, and maybe doing some photo shoots once the project is over and done with. I have some fun ideas for doing narrative dungeon crawls and telling a story with a variety of video and still photos that are photo manipulated to be a bit more dynamic than just some nice shots of painted miniatures on a dungeon board. But baby steps so far. As I said, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, as it's very easy to get overfaced with these kinds of projects. What I will do is link you to the next video in this series with a card up in the top right hand corner, where I'll be discussing the fab dungeon tiles from both Warhammer Quest and Silver Tower. Before I wrap up this video, I would like to do a couple of things. Firstly, I'd like to see what other models you think I should add to the collection and why. Maybe you can help me figure out which of the Silver Tower miniatures I should use. I have a bit of a hankering for the new plastic Medusa type models. Maybe I could kit bash them with some lizard men and make 6 interesting Naga models. Something along those lines. I also think it would be pretty cool if I made a Chaos Giant. It would be a bit different from my current giants, being based on square base and being, I guess, more of a slave giant. And he'd certainly be a fun addition to my current Chaos army, which I could also field him in if he had a square base. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Secondly, which of the sets of races should I paint first? Again, if you let me know in the comments below, I'll collate the results and paint those models first. I figured that might be a fun way of getting you guys involved in the project. Now to get painting, I suppose. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and thanks very much for watching. Peace.